I really realized that when I built my task list of things to do, I'm still kind of an old school guy. I use Notepad and I just put in there what I have to do for the day. My family was never in the top bullets. It was always win this deal, make this revenue, fix this sales issue, fix this delivery issue. And what I ended up doing was just literally putting my family at the top of my task list, always. And always considering those items and really practicing what I've been saying for years, which is my family always, comes first. And it really wasn't even that I wasn't meaning to do that. But when you look at that task list, which items are you getting done? When your family's not there, I can give you a hint. What happened to me is a lot of times it doesn't happen in terms of putting the family first. And so I did that, and I also communicated that to my family, as well as the mistake, particularly with my wife, that I was starting to do that.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Your time is the most valuable thing that you have. You probably heard that, but it's more valuable than your house. It's more valuable than your car. It's more valuable than probably your wedding ring that you carry around. Now, I'm not trying to get too philosophical here, but your time is everything. So this new series around optimizing your time will help you get more clear about new ideas that you can do. We have a very special format that I'm going to share with you, but let me introduce to you our guest today. He is Mike Gentile. He's the CEO of Cisoshare. He's been on the show before. They are an IT security company. They do some amazing things with 50 people, and they're growing fast. And we talk about the number one thing that he's done inside the company to optimize his time. And so that number one thing, I'll just tease you for a second, is to create a higher level of collaboration across the team. He does it in a unique way. We go through the details in the first half of this. The second half of this, Mike opens up with me with a little bit of a coaching session where I dive into what's really going on inside of his business. And he shares with me about improving communication, but we get to the heart of it. Using an example, I use some coaching techniques inside there. You'll be able to see some of those coaching techniques and really kind of tune in over our shoulder. You'll probably see some of the same things I see when a client is stuck in their own ways, but Mike is very open to this. We end that conversation with a clear playbook for him of how to handle this if it comes up again. And guess what? It will come up again because it's something that he's noticed is a natural pattern that's happening consistently. So all that being said, here's the interview with Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. How are you, Gene?
I'm fantastic. Excited to have you back on the show. I don't have many people coming back, but we're doing a special series on optimize your time. And before we jump into that, I'd love for you to tell us about Cisoshare, just so we can get some context to your business.
Yeah, so Cisoshare, we're a cybersecurity professional and managed service provider, and we've just continued our rapid growth here. The thing that's really unique about us, we touched on a little bit last time we talked, is that everything we do is based on learning and teaching. And it's built into our mentality. The reason we do that is because security is confusing. And so it's worked for us. So we just keep growing.
Love it. When you were on here before, we had a great conversation around how the business is growing. And I know it's probably continuing to grow through all of the stuff that we've been enduring in 2020. People need more security. So in the vein of this conversation is around optimizing your time. You were sharing with me something that you started, I think it started a few years ago, but you're doing something that has really changed the game and the way that the team plays together as a team as it relates to growing the business. Tell us a little bit more about what that strategy is.
Sure. So as we were really growing, we started to have some areas where we really needed rapid improvement in different areas of the business. And so we created this process that we call Skunk Works here. And essentially what it is you remove all the BS out of the way. You just bring in people in different areas of our business. We've done it now in sales. We've done it in delivery. We bring people together that maybe have some issues or ways that we can optimize that service. Whoever wants to come can come. It doesn't matter what your role is in the company or your involvement. You can come. We just bring up issues. We prioritize them as a group. And within a 1 month time frame, we identify which ones we want to take on and we just nail them out. We go from group to group every month. We're actually have circled around the company a bit now, and it's been unbelievable in terms of what we've been able to accomplish when you kind of just remove the noise out of the way and just focus on working as a group to solve problems that impact everyone in the company.
All right, I want to dive into this with you because I want to break it up into chunks for our audience to learn from this. How many employees are on your team?
We're a little over 50 now.
Okay. And so let's say you did this on sales. You would invite everyone to come that wanted to participate in this. Is that fair to say, or?
Yeah. And, getting people to come really was not too hard, because if people had an issue or people had an idea that they really wanted to get traction on, that was their area to really just come and talk about it. In addition, it's voluntary. We created some roles like identifying, what the issue is, who manages it, the project manager. And you basically, if you're really passionate about getting something done, you were in that, in that meeting. And so we've to date never had any issues with people showing up or participating.
Now, when you say that you're working on something, is it a known problem that you come into it and you already go, we want to fix this? Or does the group get together and say, what's the most important issue that we need to address for this month?
It's a combination of both. So a lot of times just in the course of business, you start to identify things like, hey, we need to add this to the sales group, or we need to fix this problem. We kind of collect it. If it's unbelievably important to the business, then we need to nail it out right straight away. But a lot of times now people are waiting for the cycle of the skunkworks to come back around, and we queue them. In addition, as part of the process, you also in the session, we start talking about what the issues are that other people may just want to bring up in the course of that process.
So how long do you take for that first meeting to identify what the focus will be for the Skunkworks project?
It's usually a couple hours, and we go around, and a lot of times from there, then there's homework assignments to bring back any ideas or issues that you want. We force rank them, prioritize them, and then in the next meeting, we vote on which ones we want to take on in the allotted time frame, and then we queue the rest.
So you could do multiple issues for that team because you force rank, the top 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you can get to in that month, right?
Yeah, as a rapidly growing company, having a lot of problems has never been an issue to date.
We're with you here as well. When you were doing this, where did you get the idea from?
One of my mentors back in the day always really worked with me on getting visibility into what's going on in the organization. Also, I've done a lot of work with Toyota, and they have some philosophies associated with Kaizen and really associated with walking the process. So the first time we did it, there was a group that I didn't necessarily have the visibility that I wanted. And I just basically sent out, that was the very first time, let's just talk about what's going on in the group. Whoever wants to come can come. And I want to be there firsthand as the CEO in the company. So that was the first time. And then from that time, the group just found it as the best way to make quick change. And so it's just kept living within the organization from there.
I remember when you were telling me before, because we did a pre-interview to discover this idea so that we could put you on the show. You were telling me that it's not about you being the leader of this. Everyone has kind of an equal roles. Explain to me kind of the way you approach this so that everyone kind of feels equal and feels a part of this team to fix these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have set roles for the conducting of this process. So when you go in there, there's participants. Those are people that can bring up issues. There's the project manager that manages all of the different issues. And then there's problem owners. That's the person that's charged with driving it to its conclusion in the process. So you can be an intern with Cisoshare and take any of those roles. Same thing for me in there. And when I participate in that meeting, I'm not in there as the CEO. I'm in there as one of those roles I just described. And so it really removes the kind of the power structure out of the way and just lets people work together in a group on a task that is accomplishable, because we don't like take on, doubling our sales as one of the issues in that task, right? It's things that are manageable in that time frame, and then we just work as a group to get it done.
So let's back out a little bit. You have this every month. It's a new team that you're kind of working on, a department. You are inviting new people to come in with fresh perspectives, all levels of the company. You're not the one responsible for, PMing this and driving it home. It's individuals inside there. And, this makes a clear picture about why this has really impacted your time, because you're improving the business. But, how has it really changed the way you spend your time as a CEO?
It gives me more visibility. And I think it also makes me more approachable, to be honest, because when I'm in those meetings, I'm just as anyone else in the session. The other piece that has been really, really important, and this builds on our learning and teaching philosophy here at Cisoshare, is before we take on a problem, people actually walk through that process element in our company and explain it to people. So you also are learning about what actually even the process is. A lot of times people don't even know, even if they're maybe in that group, as well as when we fix it, you do the same thing with what the new innovative process is as well. So people also learn it. So it's really an effective way for me to understand and get visibility, especially as we're growing now and we have multiple layers of business. It just gives me visibility that I really can't get in a lot of other ways. And it's in a safe environment where it doesn't look like I'm looking over people's shoulder, because I'm really not. I'm just trying to solve these problems like anyone else.
You mentioned Toyota. I don't know if you know this, but I actually was at college, Georgia Tech, proud of my education. But I studied industrial engineering, which is around looking at manufacturing lines and how they do this. And Toyota's, famously for continuous improvement. That's what this is, right?
100%. I mean, luckily with some of the work that I did for them, I was able to take some of their classes as a contractor doing work. And I still use many of those philosophies today. And yeah, this is definitely built on a lot of them. The only difference would be that we try to really constrain it in time and in terms of scope, so that we can make success with it, because that success builds energy. And that energy has been really helpful with, just in a high growth company where everyone's working really hard.
Love all of that. Well, I want to switch gears a little bit here, and I want to give you a chance to we actually came up with 2 things that have really changed the game for you as a CEO. And a lot of people struggle with this. I've struggled with it, but you've said that something in your personal life has really made a game changer for you optimizing your time. What is it, and how has it changed your life?
Absolutely. So I always have said, and everyone always says, family's number one, family's number one. And I believe that even to myself as I'm going through my course of business. But I really realized that when I built my task list of things to do, I'm still kind of an old school guy. I use Notepad and I just put in there what I have to do for the day. My family was never in the top bullets. It was always win this deal, make this revenue, fix this sales issue, fix this delivery issue. And what I ended up doing was just literally putting my family at the top of my task list always. And always considering those items and really practicing what I've been saying for years, which is my family always, comes first. And it really wasn't even that I wasn't meaning to do that. But when you look at that task list, which items are you getting done? When your family's not there, I can give you a hint. What happened to me is a lot of times it doesn't happen in terms of putting the family first. And so I did that. And I also communicated that to my family, as well as the mistake, particularly with my wife, that I was starting to do that. And I think actually, it clicked with at least my wife specifically. I think she was actually like, I think Mike actually is just an idiot. He put all these, different items above, but I've seen real changes from it because it is a big part of how I manage my day.
Love that you shared that with us. And I've had this struggle too. My family is such an important piece to it. And you just highlighting the impact that it's had, I think will help us all optimize our time, because if we don't have the relationships with our family and, why are we doing this in the first place? So
yeah, especially now too, there's no way you can execute and make things happen with how intertwined your personal life is with your business life right now. And even more so during the pandemic, right? You just can't do it. And you have to give those demonstrations of respect to your family. Or how can you expect them to support you with how hard it is to run a business and balance the family piece? I just don't think it's doable.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Mike. I want to switch gears to part 2 of this conversation, which is really just looking at where you're going next, what you're working on as it relates to your time. What is the one thing or challenge that you're focused on right now as a CEO of a growing company?
I think there's really 2 things. It's communication is a big one, especially as we're growing and we have multiple layers of management here at Cisoshare, as well as we have way more partners than we've ever had. It's managing communication and getting that efficient. And that leads to the second humongous thing, which is getting good information so that I can make informed decisions. If I can't communicate and create these freeways with different parts of our business and then get good information through those channels and freeways, there's no way I can use my time effectively, right? Because I'm not making good decisions. And so I spend a ton of time with that. And we've had quite frankly, we've had some hiccups, in different areas associated with that. One real big hiccup is, we did a really good job of implementing reporting here at Cisoshare, which goes over all aspects of performance and everything that we're doing. But we implemented it quickly. And so we implemented it using a lot of manual elements. And we're not, a $5 company anymore, right? So we made some manual errors against, that really led to making bad decisions. And they were painful errors. And so one of the things that we really look to do now is to automate and add a lot more validation in the process of the information we get. So it's good information, not just information.
Let me take a second here to remind you that if you want to keep getting episodes like this, you want to evolve as a leader, then you want to make sure you go to genehammett.com/subscribe. genehammett.com is my home base. The podcast is Growth Think Tank. And if you want to be a visionary leader, if you want to keep learning from all of these amazing founder CEOs, then go to genehammett.com/subscribe so you don't miss an episode. So this is the coaching portion of this conversation. So I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of experience of what coaching would be like. I will put a little asterisk on this. I'm not going to go deeper into this like I would with a client, be as direct as I would. I'm not going to make you cry, I don't think.
At this point, nothing can make me cry. Any CEO you talk to these days that's still on his feet, you're not going to make me cry, right? And we're learning and teaching here at Cisoshare. So fire away. I know I'm not perfect. I got a lot of easy targets.
My clients don't cry either, but I just thought I'd put it out there for a little bit of humor. You've got 2 issues. I know there's a relationship between communication and data, but which of the 2 could we talk about just today to get you more clear about what to do next in this area?
Probably the communication element.
Okay. So let me just kind of zero in on this. Is there a skill that you feel like you need to develop a higher understanding of and use, or is it a conversation or communication across the company in some way? Give me an idea of what you're looking for.
I think that the big thing that I have in communication is associated with the fact that we've grown so much, and I have an unbelievable leadership team here. But I still get nervous, right? This was my baby when I started it. I was employee number 1. And so sometimes when I'm reaching out to people, there's elements of fear and nervousness in my voice, probably, and in my approach even. And even times where, you have to trust in order to be trusted, but there's times where I still have trust issues as I'm rolling out these pieces. And I'm sure that comes through in my communication style sometime, and that's not effective, right? And so I think that that's probably an area that I've been coached on to be aware of, but it's something day to day I struggle on. And when I'm tired and when I'm moving quick, every day these days, I can make mistakes.
I want to invite you to kind of give me an example of what you mean by that, because I don't want to make assumptions. So what would be an example of something where your fear and nervousness is getting in the way?
I think following up over and over on, how a particular opportunity, a sales opportunity was handled, and what the communication, what actually happened on that deal, and who's involved and where it's going. I mean, that's a common one as we're growing. So instead of following our process, which is, we have a sales meeting, we have sales notes, we have a CRM system that manages everything and gives me information. I'm going around to the salesperson on the deal, right? I'm going to someone involved and putting myself outside of our communication channel, and that's being driven by a fear that we're not handling it properly. And even if we're not handling it properly, that's not an effective way to lead, and that's not going to resonate well with the team. And so that's a perfect example.
Let's dive into that one a little bit. When you think about going around the system, going directly to the sales rep that's running this deal, is it to tune in to what's going on? Is it to give them some support so that they can actually win the deal? Or is it to coach them so that they can handle the deal themselves? What are you doing there?
It's none of those things, because that would probably be efficient. It's all about,
okay.
It's me, I'm fairly transparent. It's all about getting the information as quick as I possibly can, and getting to the source and understanding if I need to do something as quick as I can, and sidestepping our process, which is a disrespect to our team, right? And to our leadership group.
Okay. You just said that sidestepping the process of sales is a disrespect to the team. When you say those words, what's kind of going through your mind right now as a leader?
It's just another opportunity, right? I think where I've gotten better is there's 1,000 times when I'm not doing that. And I do trust my team to run the group. And on top of it, in the situation that I've even given you now, I identified it even when doing it, and kind of fixed it. But when you're in the heat of the moment and you're feeling a lot of pressure, you buckle and you go to either your old ways, or you go to like a crutch, which is going right to the source.
I had to ask some of these questions to understand what you were really trying to do here, Mike, because I feel like the CRM, even though it's supposed to have all the data, it never has everything, right? For example, if you were all the complexity that your sales process probably endears, what was the last meeting like? When you left it, were they happy or not happy? We rarely capture those inside of our CRMs, right? So are you going in there to like get the real story from the people, or is it something else that you're trying to do?
I think the processes that we have created, thanks to our Skunkworks work, actually gives me the exact visibility I need on deals most of the time. But the challenge in that instance was that the process wasn't necessarily followed, or there was an error in the system, I believe. And so I didn't have that information. And what I should have done is gone to the lead of that group and worked with them on it, on getting the system fixed and whatever. So I went direct to the rep. In going to the rep, they were cool about it, but the lead, rightfully so, the leader, rightfully so, was not stoked, right? And so that was a conversation that we needed to have, and it led a lot of what I'm even saying here. I was very transparent in terms of, I'm human as well as a leader. I think that's one thing that I have gotten better at. Like, I make mistakes all the day, and I like to live up to them and be transparent with them. And so we discussed it, and then we put in place business rule that I just don't do that anymore. Also, with some coaching to the sales process and the sales folks, that they're also following the processes so we can get that information. And,
So
they're moving quickly too. So
you shared an example where you've already kind of come up with the solution, right? I get the disrespect now. The disrespect wasn't really with the sales rep, but it was with the leader that you bypassed.
I think so.
And you guys worked it out. And I could see how they didn't feel empowered because you went around them.
Yep, absolutely. And rightfully so.
And now you have a new way to do this. What is the bigger lesson here? So if we step back and not this one particular thing, but what is the bigger lesson for you and how you improve your communication?
I think one is to just be try and listen to myself in terms of what's driving me, to do different actions. I think also really thinking about it before I take actions. Especially if it's something that's outside of the process, and trying to, in some ways often, implement a 24-hour rule. My boys play, young boys play soccer, and I think it's the best thing in all of youth sports, at least in soccer, is this thing called the 24-hour rule, where if something drives you nuts, or bugs you, you wait 24 hours to talk to the coach, or the kid takes 24 hours to talk to the coach. And I think that that's very applicable in business. A lot of times we're in the heat of the moment and we just act. And the more that I implement 24-hour rule with myself, the more effective I am at not making those emotional decisions, which is really what it breaks down to at the end of the day.
I actually love that. The fact that you can rise above this, pull in something from your personal life and say, you know what, that probably is a really good approach for me as a leader, because I have a tendency to do X. I'm going to put this rule in place. You've named it the 24-hour rule. Is that something that you can, kind of start to adopt as you begin to improve your communication with your team?
I think absolutely. And then I think also coupled with that is I've become a lot more okay with myself in making mistakes. And I just don't beat myself up like I used to, because my heart's always in the right spot with what we're trying to do here at Cisoshare. I think in the past, if I make a mistake like that, I just beat myself up all day long about it. And everyone makes mistakes. And I think I also have gotten a little bit more comfortable when I make mistakes. I own up to them. I try to put the fix in place. I try to always treat everyone with respect throughout it. But I'm going to make mistakes, and to say that I'm not, and then to kill myself if I do, it's just not realistic. And I think that eats away from you. It eats away from anybody, especially under all the pressure that all of us CEOs are under.
Here's the thing with mistakes. And I've seen this across a lot of the companies I work with, Mike. It's okay to make mistakes and to play with the level of courage that we're going to, kind of break some things along this journey, but you keep making the same mistakes over and over. And that's dangerous, as you probably know. I know we talked about this one specific thing with your sales team. The real issue wasn't that you needed the information, it's that you bypassed someone that you have already empowered to lead this team.
Yep.
You see that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And the 24-hour rule applies here, but it really is, maybe there's a question that goes with this. Instead of it just being 24 hours waiting, it's, if I was truly empowering my team, who is the person I should really be talking to about this issue?
Yeah.
Is that a fair question to kind of add into that little playbook here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best way to really get insight is through a question, right? And so asking that question to yourself is definitely going to help in that situation. I think that the challenge, especially in a high growth company, is that it's not making the same mistake over and over and over again. It never is, because our company has grown. I mean, we're on the Inc. 5000, right? Every year, right? We're never in the same situation. We're bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so even the same problem is different. But I think going through that checklist and that litmus test of questions is critical, and something that I can add to my playbook. I like to think I try to do that as well. But I think having you bring it up crystallizes it as something that I need to really continue to do in my day-to-day. Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said in the beginning when we got to the heart of this. It really was about your fear and nervousness that you want, that gets in the way of you communicating. Is this going to help you bypass that fear?
Absolutely. And I think, other coaching I've had, the majority of mistakes that I make are associated with fear. Almost, at least with me personally, especially also because, I'm always creating businesses. I'm always pushing the envelope. So there's always a degree of fear in what I'm doing. But I think I always go sideways when I let fear control me. And so I like to think I am worlds better than I was, but I still have work to do in that area.
All right. So we were just having a little bit of coaching moment with you, Mike, around the next thing you're working on to optimize your time. And here's where I see this really connecting the dots. If you improve your communication with your team, the 24-hour rule actually will give you time, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't have to address it right away. You don't have to move in and try to get to the heart of it. You can give your team the space, but it also adding that question, who is the right person to talk to about this, will give you that playbook that you just talked about. And I think from a time perspective, when you do this well, you will catch yourself more often and not continuously make this mistake. And it applies to not just in sales, but probably a lot of places in your business. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And I would also say that it gives me a lot of time because I don't have to clean up a mess after, right? Following up with leaders, sorting it out, right? So,
I'm laughing.
Which happens.
The mess is your mess, right? You made the mess.
Oh yeah, it's my mess. And those are the ones that stink the most because you can't,
all right.
And take the most time because I got to fix it.
Has this been helpful for you today to kind of go through this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always great to have like a reflective session where someone's giving you active feedback. And, again, in our learning and teaching model, that's what we're all about. That's the only way that we can get better. So I found that this to be very helpful for me. Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it. Well, wrapping this episode up, I just wanted to kind of close this with those listening in here. What we talked about today was optimizing your time. Mike talked about the Skunkworks program that he's done. I really believe this is a great idea. I don't hear this much, but it's such a simple way to address specific problems in specific departments, specific teams, and that you could collaborate at the next level. So if you're looking for ways to improve your leadership, this is a way to empower everyone across the company to get visibility to what's going on, but also you as a leader. Mike walked us through that. The second thing you learned today was about, looking at your own next step and your time optimization. There's always another step. There's always something else we're working on as leaders. This is the part of evolution. And what we came up today was a playbook for Mike to talk about how he could handle something that causes a little bit of a mess, if you will, that has to be cleaned up. So you got an inside view of what coaching feels like, experiences like. Hopefully you have saw some areas that you want to work on. If you want to check out more free resources, more in this series on optimizing your time, go to genehammett.com. You'll find it right there. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.